me back?
We are live now, so you can random jump us in.
Sick. All right, everyone. Another edition of the King's Court stream. You have me, Brandon, the King, in this corner, and in the other corner we have
Aksu, do we still have corners here?
Yeah. There's still corners.
Okay. I thought
Like,
about this
you think
as
we're
like a round
circular?
table discussion where everybody's listening.
Like, we have corners on our chairs. It's fine. And today we have a very, very special guest returning to us, here to talk all things BANLIST and a bunch of other things. Not only the BANLIST, but and, hopefully answer questions that all of you may have, or all of us have. Returning, Safer.
Hello.
In the building.
Hello. So we have 3 filled corners, but not a 4th corner.
Yeah, it's a triangle.
It's a triangle.
Rip, not again. But I mean, we may have more corners filled in, because people can call it.
Oh, the audience.
Yeah, the
4th corner. There we go.
Oh, that's
correct.
Smart. Okay, so for people who are listening, how that should work is there's a Discord link in the YouTube comment section where there's a Discord where you can join and like we can pull up people from chat to like ask questions. But I'm getting my questions in first, if that's happening.
This is cool. I like it. It's like a call-in show.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I quite like that as well. How many people do we have live so far?
Let people 5 viewers.
5 viewers. Okay. Well, actually, you want to get started with some of your questions and let people trickle in, and then.
Okay, so I got told about this like a couple days ago, and I forgot since like today. And I had managed to think about like a couple of questions that were like interesting discussion points for the SBT in general. I think like the first discussion I wanted to be talking about was like, I guess for people who don't, and for people that are listening this later on, we are talking about like just last Monday, we're recording this on Wednesday, and there was the ban of false lead and Matryoshka, right? And that's like the framework we're talking about. And I'm just wondering, like, Matryoshka used to be kind of a bad card, right? And does it have like ever a chance of getting out of the ban list?
Does it have a chance of coming off the ban list? Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because like, in general, as a player who plays Netrunner, it feels like cards go to the ban list to die sometimes. You know?
I think that's totally reasonable. I think I was actually thinking about this right before our call because, honestly, because most of we've already started thinking about like what do we want to do for Vantage Point like testing and how we want to handle that. So like that's where a lot of my brain has been recently. But the reason why I was thinking about like unbans in particular, and it was like, why is it that cards have traditionally stuck on the ban list when I should say like most people on the team's opinions are just like if a card like doesn't need to be on the ban list and it shouldn't, right? So like how do we end up in the situation where a lot of cards end up like staying on the ban list and don't actually end up getting unbanned? And I think that it's because historically like you had this like natural progression of a single set gets released and rotation happens. And so cards that ended up on the ban list like deserved to be on the ban list in some capacity. And that's kind of the reason why like things never looked back. But now we're kind of dealing with like a very different format and a very different like set of cards. And like, just like you said, Matryoshka is not a card that I think anyone had on their bingo at like Elevation's release is like, this is gonna become meta defining, right? And I think that like at a certain point there'll just be enough cards released where we just don't have to worry or think too hard about that, and Matryoshka wouldn't be like, I don't know, one of the best breakers in terms of like numbers to break ice as well as like cheap to install. Yeah, I think one other thought on this, and that is that I think part of Matryoshka's like strength actually comes from how rigid Corp Ice is at the moment. Like, there's so little ice that corporations realistically can choose to run. And so runners don't need to have specific answers to specific ice, right? Or the ones that they do, they can usually find kind of solutions elsewhere. And that actually, I think, is one of the things that makes Matryoshka like better, because it's just so standard. It's just a normal. Like, it doesn't break anything particularly well. It breaks all of the things the same, but so do all the other icebreakers currently.
Yeah. I would like to add something to that as well. Something that I've observed, why I feel like a lot of cards haven't been able to come back. I think part of it. Sorry, I'm just picking up a package. I don't know why they do that. I think part of the reason is that like I've always said that I feel like Netrunner is one of the only games that has like reverse power creep. So when you ban something for a reason and it's usually power related, then it just it may feel like it gets more powerful over time. Not all the cards, but a portion of the cards. Like Matryoshka is banned because like the power level of the game is at a like all-time low. And so like if at some point you're able to raise that, I surely Matryoshka can
I mean,
can
with like more cards, I feel like the power level of the game rises by itself, kind of. So like you have to rethink about those cards. Also, like one thing I've been thinking about is like, is there this like general feeling that when a card goes to the ban list, it starts feeling more powerful after a while? Because like I feel like every time I talk about CyberX Sandbox with people, it feels like people are way more doomer about the card than it like deserves to get.
I've actually like never played with or against that card, but like 2 days ago, I think oh no. Was it no Cror was watching. I was playing against Have Her Fun. On JNet, I just joined their lobby because they were like, oh, I have like no ban lists on. And I was like, I don't know, I always like joining like lobbies with people that I know. You know what I mean? Like playing against people is just like more fun. So I joined and I was like, do you mind if I just play my like standard decks into like the initial like ban list stuff?
Oh god.
And so I got to experience some things and remind myself of like how things work. And it was just really fascinating. So I played against Nanocivic Grid for the first time. I did lose in an incredibly winning position because they had 3 Nanocivics on, one on remote, one on R&D, one on archives, and I pinholed HQ on the last turn, and I didn't have enough money to break the Nanocivic in the remote and also run the remote. Also, they were on 3 cards in R&D. Like it was an interesting game. But this anecdote aside, the point of the anecdote was that like I think there's nothing stopping people from just going back and playing with cards and like seeing how they feel. Like people should do that. to inform, to like update their takes and their opinions on stuff. I think that cards power level just changes over time within the in the format. So some cards are going to feel better than they were when they were banned, and some cards are going to feel like worse. You know, it's all like context dependent. That's what makes card games cool.
Yeah, I think like False Lead is an interesting card because I've never seen a card that like everybody like at the very least dislikes. But like it's not like oh my god, False Lead, oh my god, False Lead. It's not like the voices are loud about False Lead. It's just this understanding that everybody does not like it. But like it's like it hasn't really been talked about till like recently, you know? But like every time False Lead comes up, it's like, oh, like we hate False Lead, and then it goes back into the shadows, and it's like yeah, we all agree that like this is something that we wish we didn't, but like, you know, and it's weird because usually Netrunner cards, that's not how they're talked about. Like if they're really hated, they're like talked about until they're gone or until something is done about them or until, I mean, it's very rare that a card like that is like, you know, just goes undercover, I guess, as much as it did. It's just very unique. But like finally it was like, oh yeah, okay, so we're gonna get rid of that card. I think where it's interesting for me is that like, you know, getting rid of False Lead but not giving Sting back was interesting.
Yeah,
It's understandable.
there was like a question thing about chat where Meather was asking about that False Lead should have gotten banned instead of touch-ups, and like those were kind of banned for like similar, or like touch-up was banned because it was really good in a really not fun deck, where the main kill condition was playing touch-ups, like, or like you were touch-up, you had False Lead, and then you force your opponent to end untagged, and then you just kill them, right? And like, was there a world where False Lead gets banned and touch-ups gets unbanned, or is the card just too egregious?
Sure. I mean, like, we're talking about for this specific update, right?
Yes.
Are we talking about like, okay? So for this, I think one of the most important like pieces of context for this update is partially like timeline, right? It was released, I think almost 1 month exactly like post Worlds, right? But of course, you know, we needed to write the ban list article ahead of time, and usually that's an attempt at 1 week. So I think I like had it finished on Monday, so the 10th, and by the 10th we need to have a decision, right, for me to write an article. Okay, for us to have made a decision, we would need to have started discussion. So we're talking about like conversations going on and things that are happening 1 week, 2 weeks after Worlds, and you know that's after people have traveled and spent a lot of time like engaging with Netrunner. Like a lot of people would be more like, you know, like hyped to like work on Netrunner too, but people also need like breaks. Which is all to say that like we didn't. The reason why like I frame this as like an experimental ban list in a lot of ways is because we didn't want to like we didn't have the time to like properly test and validate stuff. Like we had theories around stuff and we just went, this is a thing that we like, do we want to see the environment with these cards gone? Yeah, like yes, great, we're doing this instead of no changes. Then like that's effectively like what the entire conversation was. When it comes to unbans and what people may see in the future, right, that's all ongoing conversations with like Vantage Point, because like basically the foundation for the banless conversations moving forward is like the starting point is like, okay, what can we unban? And that's, I mean, that's been true in some other ban lists as well. Like we tried and tested like unbans for the world's ban list, right? Like we tried R plus, like unban. We tried Gold Farmer unbanned. No, I think like we talked about it. I don't remember exactly what other ones we talked about, like, but moshing. Moshing was definitely
Oh,
one of the other
tested
ones.
moshing?
Oh yeah, we tested moshing unban.
Damn, I
For sure.
thought that card was dead forever.
I mean, like we had 2 test games. It was me and Cable, and like in one game, so we wanted to test very specific things. Like we were like, how does Anarch do into like Alco, right? Like an unbanned testing with a known quantity. So I was playing Alco, a deck I'm very familiar with and confident in, versus Cable playing, just like a reg Anarch list, which I think he took to second in Worlds in like 2023, right? Or is it like he was on Anarch, right? I'm not crazy.
He was on Crim, but
he was on Crim. Okay, well, I don't know. He he plays Grim a lot, but like also like half the times he's just like pops out like a Hosh. He's like, yeah, I'm just playing Hosh because like I don't know. Anyways, so first game it didn't come up, like didn't draw the card. Second game he was at 0 credits. I pushed for see how they run play because he was at 0 credits, like three cards. I guess it would have had to have been 4 cards in hand, right? And I was like, I can push to see how they run behind an enemy, like with a FUT res, no problem. Click 1, moshing, hitting Steel Skin Strike Fund. Click 2, gamble. Click 3, run remote. I was just like, what the fuck do I do against this? Like, so like moshing has like 2 problems. Like one is its power level problem, but then there's also like the design problem where in general we've been trying to peel back. And when I say we, I mean like NSG as a whole, right? The design dev team, SBT, like all of us in concert have been trying to peel back at this concept of like easy bounce back that every faction can do under any circumstance, right? Because you want to be able to look across the table and be able to read roughly what your opponent's options might be, right? And moshing just like has the power level problem and the design problem bundled together. So it was like, okay, is it safe to unban moshing? Well, Anarch's not in that bad of a spot.
Yeah.
And then it also creates all these other complicated things that don't help scoring corpse like in any way, shape, or form, which is something that we've, like had an eye on. So
all right, people, Anarch people, start throwing all your games. We need Anarch in a bad spot, all right?
Oh my god.
That's so not
one, people. Like, if you want your moshing back, don't win any of your Anarch games, okay?
Okay. Here's the flip side. You throw all your Anarch games, you'll get us to play 1 or 2 test games, and then we'll be like, clearly this is illegal.
And step number 2, bribe SVT to throw their testing Anarch games so that we keep them moshing back.
And I should say that like most things last more than 2 test games. Like the R plus and moshing games were 2 games because in those 2 games it was so blatantly obvious that this couldn't happen.
Wait, what happened in R plus? I really want to talk about R plus because
Constrictor. It was like, imagine the world's winning Epiphany list, but you could play Oppo for 0 credits from turn 1.
Sounds great. I don't say anything wrong with it.
Imagine you could be more consistent because you played a 40 card deck. Imagine that instead of playing 10 2-point agendas, you could play 9 2-point agendas.
You know what? Like, I guess like part of me is just not super high on the Epiphany deck, so like that's why I'm kind of like, meh. Yeah, like I did a lot of testing. Epiphany was very mid in testing. Like, I just think like to me, one of the things that we were sold was that, R plus hinders like future tag punishment and things like that. The jury's still out on that because the tag punishment is very mid. but being able to, if it's always going to be this thing about Oppo and like how you play Oppo and like that value part, miss me with that. Like, like corps do good things, you know. Like I don't. For me personally, I'm not in like I'm not testing R plus to see if it can come back, you know. But
Right.
like I just don't see it. I don't see why R plus is not with us right now. Like I don't see any reason. And if it's just like imagine Epiphany, but it's R plus, like yeah, give me R plus over Epiphany. I'd rather play that. Yeah, like, if we're both gonna if we're gonna lose, then like I rather lose to R plus. Like, and I rather have a chance to play R plus.
So like this is why we test though, right? Like we clearly like we didn't test like a Drago unban. We didn't test like a Keeling unban, right? Like you can we didn't test like Ingram flush. Oh, I got Ingram flush for the first time in the
and you liked it, right? And you liked it.
No, I was like, this is so illegal.
What do you mean? So you were like, oh my god, this Ingram flush that I did put my Botulus or Boomerang on, I got putted. Oh no. Oh
yeah,
no.
It cost 2 straight credits. Like
I was playing Shiva with Crim. I had to pay 7 to break it.
Wait, what were you playing?
I was just playing normal Crim with Shibboleth. and
hold on. Whose problem is this now? Whose problem is this really now? This explains everything. I was playing Crim with fucking Shibboleth. Like
yeah, the best criminal decoder like in a years.
Yeah, like Shibboleth is fucking ass. Number one. Number two, like you don't break Ingram flush. That's why it's banned. You don't break it. You just
the card is literally broken. Yeah,
I couldn't afford to not break it. That was the entire premise.
Yeah.
Like obviously I would have let it fire because 2 cards is not worth 7 credits. But if I have to break it because the only answer is pinhole to fucking Mana Civic Grid, then I have to pay the 7.
I mean, anyway. Like Ingram flush.
The Ingram flush is like dead, long gone. Like Ingram flush is never coming back.
I rather Gold Farmer than Ingram flush. I'll be honest, but
okay.
Like
Gold Farmer, I'm so happy not to see back because it would enable GameNet players.
Yeah, I'm definitely team like let's like Men in Black GameNet from our memories. Like let's not talk about it. Like we should change topics.
Really? Really? Okay.
Not.
So in that case, okay. In that case, if that's the case, we deserve more from like the makers of cards from NSG. If we're just gonna keep blank IDs like on the roster and never and we'll be like we're not gonna support you, we're not gonna bring, then give us another ID in its place and just get rid of it. Like
yeah, can we like put it to like sleep?
Yeah, like at that point, if you generally like everyone's like, okay, we agree that this is never going to be a thing again. We want to wipe it from our memories. Then wipe it from our memories and give us something else, like our plus or something new that's cool. Then, but
so like
I mean, yeah, they are printing new cards.
That never get played.
You're saying like
never gonna support.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, like we're doing that. It's like,
look, are you gonna ever support Hayubu? Like,
no. Why? What?
Exactly. So,
yeah,
like
you're not releasing random cards. Like, yeah, here's the Hayubu replacement. There's going to be new sets coming out.
Yeah.
No. We're just we're just down IDs. You know what I mean? If you're just gonna leave them blank, you know.
I think what you're talking about here, though, is really like Ashes should not still be around. Like let's like Ashes is like has been in the game for a really long time.
Oh no, not rotation.
It is. No. Like we're not. We can't get rid of Ashes right now, right? Like we just went through the whole like large rotation and are dealing with that. We need the card pool to expand, but like the cards that like all of these cards that we're talking about, right? They're all Ashes cards.
Yeah.
All of them are Ashes
Like-
cards. And so like, why would I go and print an Ashes card, like a card that's a print, like that supports specifically a card in Ashes that is going to be the soonest to rotate, right? I'm not saying that's happening soon, but like of all of the sets, it will be the next set to rotate. So it's going to have the least shelf life, and like the Ashes, like, look, I think the people who worked on Ashes will say this as well. It is the least like, it's the least like refined and cohesive, and like NSG was figuring out what it meant to make Netrunner cards during that cycle. And so like, we wouldn't print a game net today. We wouldn't print a Hyobu today. We just wouldn't be printing a lot of the cards that you see in Ashes. You know, like we've learned from it. They've been in the game for long enough. Why do we need them around? Let's forget that they ever existed. It's okay.
Because I still want to play Bravado.
Oh well, you know, some of them are bangers. Like Ashes has like strictly bangers and losers. I don't know.
Listen, all you GameNet players out there, you heard it here first. You know, you don't exist. Okay. you know, you've been left in the cold and rain. You know, you once had this great idea that you felt like you loved and you played.
Great idea.
Listen, I'm not the GameNet player, but listen. One thing that I was always told every time I made like arguments, it was like, "Hey, this may not be for you, but it could be for others." Okay, and no, I'm just addressing those. The one GameNet player over there or the one over there. Listen, like I feel your pain. You know, I've had things taken away and forgotten about as well for me too. So I hear you. I feel you. I'm sorry. You know, that's okay. Like some people, like I mean, I don't know. I was there when like the server was like slot machine into Turnpike into Teleboost into like.
That sounds like such an enjoyable experience. Yes.
I mean,
It was
gaming. It was gaming. Like, I mean, I don't know. I would say that, like, you might say, hey, that sounds like an enjoyable experience, but at least my fucking ice did shit. So, like, I mean, whatever.
I mean, sure.
Yeah. Like, it's funny because I was playing or watching people play some 2019 Netrunner last night. And I was like, damn. Wow. Like I wish I knew what I knew now then, and I wouldn't have, like, I was newer to the game, but I wouldn't have taken it for granted as much. Like it would have been, I was like, man, like all these cards, like they do stuff. Like they have like real impact. Like real. It was. I was like, damn, I do miss this. There's certain cards I'm like, oh my god, I forgot this did this, and what I'm doing right now to my opponent is amazing.
Okay, I think we have the first call in of the.
Ooh, yeah, let's go.
History. So we have not Yeti on the call. Did you have something to talk about?
Oh, not Yeti! Oh. My broski,
how's it going? How's it going?
Welcome.
Thank you. I got to be quick. I'm only here for a moment, but the main thing I just want to say is that the SBT need to be stopped. They should have. I think down tools 2 ban lists ago. They were on literally such a hot streak. I think there were probably 10 ban lists in a row that were just perfect. Everyone a banger. But these last two, and I think it's just an artifact of the card pool being so small. These last two, they just haven't felt essential, you know? They haven't felt needed, I think, is my main sentiment. Like, yeah, I get it. Max Rush is a cringe card. False lead, famously cringe card, but it hasn't been necessary in my view. And I think there's definitely a philosophical question to be asked about, if the ban list is there for necessary changes or if it's there to keep the game fresh. But yeah, my main thing is these last two ban lists, including the pre-worlds one, felt unnecessary.
That is a take. Do you have do you want me to just react to the take? Or is there a
That'd be
specific
great.
question you want me to
Let's start with the react, and then
Okay. That take is terrible. No, I'm saying that. I think that's a fine take. I think that I think that each ban list should be looked at kind of separately because context matters, right? Like if we were going to, if the competitive season was continuing, really aggressively, it's kind of been, okay, so this year is like the first year where I think that we very specifically planned out, like, we're going to do ban lists in line with the competitive season, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that meant, okay, these different ban lists actually have like almost specific, like targets, target like,
yeah,
not audiences, but like events, right? And style. So like you want the world's one to be ideally like the most competitively focused like list, right? And the one after that where a lot of people are taking breaks, or doing like off meta month things, like that one doesn't, it just like matters less if it misses the mark in some way, shape, or form, right? So if we look at this specific list, right, it really just came down to, we don't have time to test. What do we think could potentially benefit the meta? And we just don't have like necessary expectations. And the question was literally like, do we want to go for no changes, or do we want to go for something that's slightly more experimental to see what happens, right? And I think that another point that you brought up is like, okay, well then what is the role of like the SBT and standard format team? Like, what is our role? Like, what should we be doing? What's our responsibility within the organization? And to that, I would say we've had some turnover recently, not like in like a negative way, but like we have Not Again joined us, Arizon joined us, Kikai just recently joined us, was not part of this most recent ban list, but the one, but like we'll be helping with stuff moving forward. Lost Geek, a longtime leader, stepped down, I think it was before Elevation. Crowfeed decided to go pursue other things, and I think is more focused on like fighting games right now. So like how the team operated before and the philosophies that like were built out of like the individuals and their opinions and their beliefs and how they wanted to operate, like, is just different, right? Mm-hmm. And so like I think it's actually kind of an open question right now of like, what do we think is the most appropriate space for like the SBT to be doing? And like, what is other teams' responsibilities, right? One of the cards that we talked about recently, is moshing. But I think R+ also falls into this category, where like R+ is both like a power level, like above what it probably should be, but then also has these other like design philosophical things associated with it. And the R+ ban was discussed a very long time ago, before Elevation was released, before it hit the public, right? Because it was like a conversation between design, dev, and SBT, right? The people in that meeting where we decided to ban R+ and Cleaver, this was before I was on SBT. This is when Lost Geek was there. This is incorporated there, right? This is when all these different things happen. So I think that like I don't know. Like, I don't know if I have like a particularly satisfying answer for you right now, but like,
No, no,
appreciate
I think
you-
that's good. I
appreciate
think
you asking it. You know.
Can I pitch you? Can I pitch you on something? This is my personal philosophy.
Give me your take, and I'll shoot it down. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. My feeling is that whenever you look at a meta and you think that it's just about to go stale, you know, or you think you're worried this is just about the point where we think people have found the best decks, and you got to give it 3 months. You got to give it multiple tournaments. There's two reasons for that. One of which is good odds you're wrong. Good odds that the meta like sickos brew something. Brandon is always cooking, and the odds are he finds something disgusting. And also, as a player, I really enjoyed to play in a quote unquote sold meta. I really enjoy Netrunner, where both players have got the reps. We both know what's going on, and to be able to play a competitive tournament, or like even a whole season in a quote unquote solved meta, would be really fun for me. And that I know the difference of perspective there will be great. But yeah, I really liked the whichever ban list it was that banned Banhar and some other cards.
Yep.
That one I think created a really wonderful diverse meta that I would have enjoyed playing in at Worlds, and I think I would still be enjoying playing in. And yeah, the some time to let it breathe, you know. These ban lists are like fine wines. You gotta you gotta let them breathe.
Yeah. Okay. So also, I think that's a good take. I think that we've seen not just in Netrunner, but like plenty of other games, right? I think the best example is Super Smash Bros. Melee. But if you want
Great
something that is also a turn-based strategy game, you can look at older Pokemon games as well, and how like they've been around for like literally over a decade with no changes, and metagames shift and change, and people figure stuff out, right? And there's always this balance between, well, like players that want to be like honers, right? They want to practice this matchup and they want to get better at it, and people that want like variety or something different, or just like being able to, I don't know, if you enjoy specific factions, let's say you really enjoy playing HB and Wayland and Shaper. If none of those factions are viable, then maybe you're just not playing the game, right? And I think that, you know, these are that can be a full range of players. That can be, you know, your hyper competitive people that show up to like every single tournament, as well as it could be like people that just show up at locals and like get told what ban lists are many months later. You know, like that kind of, these different kinds of players can exist in all different kind of levels of engagement, right? And so to that, I would say like that's kind of the reason why I'm like, I think different ban lists for different time periods, so like the world's ban list actually might make a lot more sense to focus on like less disruptive changes than the one right after it, right?
Yeah.
And like for like the specific, you know, 2508, I believe is what it was, where the bank carb was banned, deep dive was banned, and all this other stuff, right? We had a very clear problem that we needed to try and solve, and we had a decent amount of like time to like talk things through. And we like, I was really, really confident actually in that ban list after it was written. I felt really good coming off of like our like call and writing the list with Deer right afterwards. Like that I was like really confident after that list, and I think initial reception was like pretty like mixed. Like people like, I don't know what's going on. Like I remember having a conversation or two with people being like, why in the world are you banning info bounty? This makes no sense, kind of stuff, right? And I think that actually speaks more to you kind of got to let things sit and stew, because players will adapt, and like metas only like really get figured out after like many months. And for that meta in particular, I think that the alternative universe of no changes. Let's just say that there was no ban list between continentals and worlds, right? And so it's the exact same basis for a meta. There's a very real chance that that meta actually just becomes like specifically like revolved around Cyber Sand Humanoid Resources Ob, right?
The
And
scoring one.
The scoring one, yeah.
Whoa. Okay.
I think that is like I had very little experience playing with or against that deck because I think that it got specifically refined on like at the Americans Continentals event. Like it was EMEA Online Continentals into America's Continentals. Like, okay, so sorry, I'm going to spend more time on this because I think that's important. So like you had America's Continentals in person, Montreal was 3 weeks. There was like this 3 weeks, whereas Americans online, American in-person Continentals in Montreal, EMEA online Continentals, American Continentals, and we had to decide the ban list immediately after EMEA Continentals concluded, because the ban list was coming out 3 days after that, if I remember correctly. Or like 4 days after that or something like that. So American Continentals, Uno Ob, the Bladderwort version,
yeah,
that was the hotness for that, right? And people were talking about it, and people were trying to figure out how to play around it and adapting new play patterns. But over the course of the in-person event, I think that people got used to it, because I think that Tunob won or got second in EMEA.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Right? Okay, so it wins a tournament as an unknown quantity. It gets taken the very next week to a new event. People start figuring out how to beat it and how to properly play against it, right? Okay, it ends up being like, remember like white space? Like before it was considered to be a real ice, right? Like Tuno Ob is what made white space a actual like consideration within the card pool, right? And then that changed Alco, because Alco was now running white space and looked to be getting better in some ways in that regard, right? Okay, so you then have now this foundation of Cybersand and Ob. Finding a one coster for Bladderwort has proven to be good, but fragile in some very specific ways, but its core is good. EMEA Online Continentals. We have a couple of people bringing Ob with Cybersand tutoring for HR. And then finally, we have American Online Continentals, where I don't know who is responsible for making the deck, but I just know that Caesar was the one that brought it, right? And played it and won the entire event with it, if I remember correctly.
Unfortunately, I have to drop.
Sorry.
No, not at all. But I think, to back up my original point, what you're describing to me is like a sweet, diverse, open meta that I would have loved to have paddled in for 6 more months. And to finish off, just to say, I love the SBT, and I think you all do great work, and love to the kids and all that, and I'll speak to you later.
Enjoy your dinner.
Bye. BLT, as they say.
Thank you, Yeti.
Yeti. So
kind of pivoting off that. Oh, you go ahead.
So we have this new deck that gets refined. Like it's not a new deck, it's a deck that gets refined and pieces get figured out. And there's some worrying indicators in those lists that was happening consistently. Like whenever you're seeing any deck in the entire game, but like, courtside, have like 24 cards left in deck on turn 4, that is a rate that is not really feasible for modern runners to keep up with. And so, like, that is the kind of thing where it's like we could have let that played out, and maybe people found a way to adapt and crack it. But like in like where we are in we're the position at that time, right? It's like there's a very real world where Ob with Cybersand just becomes an absolutely like dominant, you cannot beat it kind of deck. And in some ways, it's kind of been validated because Scrobs is like came out after like actually performed incredibly well at Worlds and is now basically one of like the decks to beat. Like imagine, but that's without Cybersand. And Cybersand was very clearly unbelievably busted, right? In op. So TLDR is we had hard choices to make for the world's ban list, and you can argue about like what the role of SBT is and all this other stuff, but like hopefully you can put yourself in our shoes and like the decisions that we were making on the timeline that we had to make them and go like, oh, like the meta. Hopefully it's understandable why it'd be like, okay, if we ban Cybersand, like maybe we need to buy in Cybersand, and if we do, it's going to shake up the meta no matter what.
Yeah.
Do you really believe that R plus is above the line of power level that you would want?
Back to the R plus.
Okay, so I'm gonna if you don't mind, I'm gonna take my SBT hat off for a moment,
Yes.
and I'm gonna put on my dev hat because I think my SBT hat would have a slightly different answer that's based off of card pool, and my dev hat says 100% yes. It is not that any one piece of text on the card makes it overpowered. It's that it has all of the things in combination, and flexibility is incredibly prone to being overpowered. So 2 credits is a lot of credits. Like ETF, right? Purple HB Identity, the original one, that could gain 1 credit on each player's turn was 2 credits. If you can manage to get 2 credits, like R plus can get 4 credits on a turn cycle. Like that is overrate. There's no way of looking at it other than it is overrate. But it's not just that. It's not just because like you can have ups and downs. Like Alco is overrate, but I don't think Alco is the same level of power as R plus, to be frank, because Alco like has to build into it more. And we see games where it hasn't fired in like 5 turns, right? So if R plus was just plus 2 credits and was overrated in that regard, it might be fine. But it has the flexibility of also being draw. And draw is also incredibly potent, especially when you can choose between the two, right? Like that is just overrate, period. And then to bring it all home is that if you put that in a 45 minimum card deck ID, maybe it could exist and maybe it could be fine. But it also gets to like be even more consistent while also having draw 2 printed on the card. That is such a ridiculous package for consistency and flexibility. Yes.
Why is Sting still banned?
I feel like that's the same answer than the touch-ups one, right?
No, I put Sting in a different bucket than touch-ups personally. Yeah, I think so. Sting, I would like to see Sting unbanned at some point in the future, and I would like to do it with testing and to make sure that's an informed decision when we choose to do it, if we choose to do it.
Do we have any questions in the chat, Axel?
There was one at the start of the thing where Floating Fast was asking about that it wasn't written in the article, but was false lead banned as a way to bring OCO win rates to a more reasonable state? Or was it completely about the false lead being NPE?
Right, that's fair. Okay, so this question is kind of harder than it seems on surface level. First off, there was a statement in there that I disagreed with. There was a statement that said Alco, like that. Basically, the presumption is that Alco's win rates are
unreasonable.
Higher, are unreasonably high, and I don't think that is the case. I would also say that Alco's win rates when Sting was banned were not unreasonably high either. I think that they were within a totally acceptable high power level for win rates on like corp side. Like if a corp has like 54% win rate or something, it's probably a very strong corp, but I'm not convinced that that's an unreasonable amount. Something like 57, 60% win rate, okay, that is very much reasonable. In terms of false lead being banned specifically because Alco continued to perform and adapt, I would actually say that Alco, while still being performant, excuse me, at Worlds, I don't think that it was necessarily stronger than it was before. I think that it was more narrow, less consistent, less skill expressive, but because of the general power of the false lead into oppo into end of line play pattern, and the fact that like you have to tech so incredibly hard to avoid dying to it, I think that it kind of just inflates its win rate, to be frank. Okay, so that was the win rate stuff. And why is false lead banned? I would say that it's a mix of these things. And again, we wouldn't have banned false lead if this is without the framing of this being an experimental thing post Worlds, we wouldn't have banned false lead.
Yeah,
but
it's super easy to forget the experimental part because as like a player, it doesn't necessarily feel that experimental when you're like, oh, we're just taking out 2 NPE cards, but I can totally see it being like more experimental, like normally do it, especially if you had like a less defined testing period.
I think it also doesn't feel too experimental when, again, it's just bans and it's not experimental on the side of let's see what this unban does. Like it still just feels the same as we just cut off the top. Right? So like, yes, like literally for the SPT, it might have been experimental, but really to players who play this game competitively, you've just taken another set of competitive tools away.
Sure.
Like there's not really an experiment in that for us. Do you know what I mean? It's not like we have any new toys. It's not like what we do know is that the things we were playing just got weaker. That's what we know. Like, sure, we're gonna fiddle around with cards, but it's like it's not cards that we haven't been previously. There's nothing new, right? So like, I can forgive people where they're like experimental, sure, but
yeah. So I think that it's totally reasonable to like look at this and go like, how is this experimental? Like, I get the things that are on it, but I don't see the like why you'd frame it as experimental. And I don't think false lead really is in that camp for what it's worth. Like, the false lead ban wouldn't have been there if Matryoshka wasn't there, right? And when we go and we hit Matryoshka, it is appropriate to then also hit false lead. There's actually like we have like a thought experiment that puts us to believe that like Alco's actually a winner with Matryoshka being banned. So like that's part of the reason why like false lead also makes sense. But specifically to talk about like exploring new things within the game, right? I understand that, you're like, there's not cards coming back into the pool that haven't already been in the pool for us to experiment with, right? But obviously, like, the dev and design teams are the ones that print cards, not the SVT. And then the other thing is like, we referenced white space. I mean, we also talked about like how Matryoshka saw no play. Like, there are cards that become relevant when the top get hit, right? And one of the most fundamental like one of the most fundamental like dynamics in Netrunner is icebreakers and ice, right? And so Matryoshka being such an influential piece of how corps needed to think about ice and icebreaker interaction, and how runners then needed to like adapt to the ice, even if they were running reg breakers that they expected to see in corp decks. Like this should be a really like this should change things quite a bit if people were to continue to play it and see how it works over time. Like I don't think that this is like a small change. And so it's experimental in the sense that we don't necessarily think that it was necessary, right? It's not something that we were like, here's this one specific meta issue that we need to solve, right? But it's experimental in the sense that like there's going to be a huge shakeup when this happens, and kind of like, you know, how things shifted and what became good and what became bad when Bankar was banned. Like Dolls is another thing that really hates on single iced remotes across like centrals and other things, right? You could even potentially like there's a potential that RH and Elio Glacier stocks go down because runners go like back into other normal breakers, right? Because their primary like mode of punishment was in forcing people to encounter ice multiple times, which is especially hated on Dolls. So like I don't think it's a small change. Maybe experimental is like the wrong word for it then. But
You mean like egregious?
makes sense.
Come on.
Look, you're never gonna like forget about egregious. Like, it's gonna be like 5 years from now, and you're gonna be like, you know.
Listen. I shouldn't. If I'm not here, who holds all of you accountable? If it's not me.
One word.
See, and your response means I need to do this for another 3 years. It's one word. Like you still haven't learned. You still haven't learned. You see, and that's what I mean. I if I'm not here, who's here to point these things out? If I don't, oh man, I was like egregious. My God, like how did this not stand out to everybody else? And it didn't, which means I'm needed. You know.
Of course you're needed, brother.
I'm needed. I'm needed. Yeah.
Right.
Like I can't let these things slide. Like, you know, you can slip it past some, but not Unk. Not Unk. No way. No way. No way. And honestly, like touch-ups was just trauma. Touch-ups is trauma. Like free touch-ups. We lost you way too soon. And maybe we'll see you. We probably won't see you back one day. But you know, we can hope. We can hope.
I can get touch-ups back after I get Bunker back.
I think I'd rather have touch-ups back before Bankar. I think Bankar does more things.
Wow, for safer to say that you should listen tonight in your prayers, Axu. Yo, you wish Bankar a good life on the other side, because that shit ain't never coming back.
I'm just sad that I cannot use Anarchar's value anymore, kinda.
Anarchar's value. I mean, look, so Bankar is like super fun, right? Like it's a generally fun card.
Yeah, 100%.
I think it clearly did very. Yeah, like it clearly did very healthy things when it left. Right? Like it was clearly like, but like that doesn't mean, again, I'm gonna take my, you know, SBT hat off and put in my dev hat on, you know, like that doesn't mean we're not gonna explore that space again. Like,
I know.
Obviously, like we're gonna explore that space again, you know, and like I don't know, look forward to Vantage Point. Like, you know, minor, you know, like there might be something there, you know, that you enjoy, maybe.
Or Axu is just judging for the rest of his life. It's fine.
I play the game every week.
You say what?
I play the game every week.
You don't like it though.
Come on.
You listen. You come back every time from playing. You miss your baby. You're like, just it's okay. Honestly, it's okay to like. Honestly, I'm actually proud of you that you fought it for this long. that you haven't hopped on my train and you're continuing to fight and you continue to believe. But like, you know, eventually everything gets taken away from you. That's just how it goes.
Sure.
That's how it goes.
There was another.
Like, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just trying to pivot to other conversation topic.
Mhm.
Because there, Funkyman232 was asking about like how many events do you need in a meta to feel like good about a banlist decision, and like how much data does make you feel confident or unconfident. And this is combined with the new changes in the OP season, where like previously ban lists were like unscheduled, right? And now they're way more scheduled. Does that like hurt as PT kind of like in a way where you like are maybe not happy with some decisions, or do you feel like pressure to do stuff where you maybe sometimes wouldn't change something?
Right.
And like we have seen twice there be like talk about maybe doing like no changes, but do we just like when if there's a place where you would be confident doing no changes, but you have clearly defined spots where you can change the ban list, it's like better to shoot something while you're not being completely sure about it.
Yeah. I think that the scheduled stuff is mostly an acknowledgement that like ban list updates are disruptive, right? And so we want to give players a heads up on like when they can expect the disruption. It helps TOs organize things. Like it also helps us like hit deadlines and stuff like that. But it also is definitely like a learning curve, I think, for us where, you know, we need to like it. I don't know. I think that the question is just like a really good question where like before a ban list update only ever realistically came when something clearly needed to happen. And now we have these scheduled time periods where we're probably going to be testing stuff either way, unless, you know, everyone's just like, meta's great. And that, yeah, I don't know. I think it's just like a good question. I hadn't like fully thought about the exact correlation before, which is good. So like, I don't know. Good question. Yeah. I don't know. It's a new system as of this year, right? So
yeah.
All right. I don't know if you're the person to ask this, but Safer, but I'm starting to ask this seriously. Is there any talk about realigning the calendar so that like releases make more sense in terms of competitive play and the competitive play schedule?
are you talking about like product releases? Like
yeah, and also just
releases?
well, here's I'll like, I guess I'll preface it like right now. I'm always very nervous about the SBT coming out with a ban list. Like nervous in the sense of like some people are nervous, there's nervous excitement, versus this is like nervous dread because I feel like there is or has been a problem that there has been a I've talked about like and we've talked about like the imbalance, I feel like a corp side runner side. And because of that, I feel like a lot of those trickle downs get us to a point where now the SBT is left to have to deal with that.
Oh, sure.
And so like every time I'm like, no, please don't touch anything. Just don't touch anything. Like it can only be worse. Like really, most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
The deep dive Banhar ban list aside, that was hype. That was probably the hypest one I've seen in years. That's pretty good. But like what ends up happening is that just for I feel like Continental seems like the best time to be playing Netrunner.
Mm-hmm.
Because there just hasn't been as many ban lists at that time. And so you get more of the new set you were playing, like you get more of the power stuff that you want to be doing. You get like the experimenting and like putting together decks and things like that. And then like there's some refinement like happens at like Continentals. And you also see like there's evolution and things like that. But it feels like by the time you get to Worlds, there's been too many ban lists. There's been a lot of games played, and you either just get like the scraps of a former formats you have to cobble together and you just play that, or it's just this open like, well, which testing group's going to find the last remaining semblance of a deck to be playing kind of thing. Like,
So I have a question for you.
mm-hmm.
Are you specifically talking about this year, or you're like, this is a thing that I've noticed over multiple years?
Yeah, this is a thing that I've noticed over multiple years.
Okay.
Because the sets have come out.
Okay, specifically with the product. I think I understand what you're saying. And
Yeah.
I think what you're saying is like, as a result of when the sets have been released, the Continental season has happened to have been the best time because it is like, okay, we originally like the set comes out, there's immediate obvious things that probably need to be adjusted. And then then that is adjusted for Continentals, and then Continentals happens, and then there's some ban list in between Continentals and Worlds that actually makes maybe makes like what was a really good meta not as good, and like in part, and again, this is me like trying to frame your question, and if I'm throwing something in here that I shouldn't be, tell me. Then because of the timing of things, because of the tools and other stuff, and because of like the ban list action, like even if there was no ban list, it would still be a worse meta because things will have been like figured out and gotten like more degenerate or something. Like that's what makes Worlds not as necessarily good as like the Continental season.
Well, like
okay, Brandon, before
again,
you start, I need to add one person who was supposed to be in the call originally. So originally was supposed to be not again and Schaefer talking about SP things, and we just managed to get not again in the call.
Hey, not again! Welcome to the King's Court.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Perfect. I guess what I was saying is like, or to add on to the question, I guess I'm asking is like, I've always heard talks of like maybe you could have like two sets of cards come out per year, and like, is there like, do you think that's possible? Because then like if you have something, let's say for example December, January, and then you have one like May, June, then I feel like that would really help like this kind of issue. Because but if you have something early January, by the time you get to September, like you're playing with rubble. Like it's
but like
it's all gravel. Like you know what I mean?
So I'll try to speak to this the best as I can, but I have to put on leadership hat first for this one, which is like there's a lot of difficult logistics that go into releasing a set, and because we are both a volunteer organization, and also because and because we're like a global, like international organization. We have people from all over the place, because we have our products primarily manufactured in China and then have to distribute everywhere around the world. We just have a lot of stuff going on, and that means that like we really do want to get to a release structure in cadence that where players don't have to be like, oh, I wonder when this is going to come out, or oh, they said Q1, what does that mean, right? We really want to get to a more stable place in that, right? And there are active efforts going on right now. Shout out to distribution that should make that even more. That I think we're making really good steps in this last year, and I'm really, really happy about that. So yeah, like, can we in the future? Time will tell. Do we want to? Yeah, I think everyone would love to be in a more like reliable place. Like, does that mean 2 sets a year? I don't know. Does that mean, you know, 3 sets a year, but they're smaller sets? Like, you know, like there's a lot of different ways of like solving this theory, and you should not read into that statement. It's just like the goal should be having players know what to expect, right? And that will create a better experience for everyone involved. And there is truly nothing like a new release of cards to freshen up the meta, to get people excited to play, like for just playing the game and being enjoyed, like, you know, just for being enjoyed and stuff, right? Like, yeah, like we all want new cards, right? And there's being a lot of active, hard, good work to get new cards out. Okay, that was that part. SBT hat back on. Like, I think that you raised like a really like interesting point that I hadn't thought about, where it's like, okay, the release like timing of cards in particular, and how that related to the OP schedule. And like, I think that there's probably some natural like thing there where like, you know, a product like a new set gets released and it's really good for the first 2 months, and then okay, there's a problem, then it gets banlist, and then it's like really good for 4 months, but then actually it gets like worse for like the 7th to 8th month period, even if there was like no changes, and then it would take like month to month 10 or like 11 for it to get better, right? It's like there's probably some natural like human dynamics that just like happen there, that probably like other companies that make like lifestyle games that have like a larger player base and like data analytics might be able to figure it out at this point. Yeah, so that point is really interesting. I'll have to think about it more in relation to it, but I want to point to like RWR, when not RWR, TIA like came out in like maybe a weird time for Worlds, but I think people really enjoyed that Worlds quite a bit. And there was like a lot of discovery and things going on. And then RWR came out in like March, I believe. Maybe it was, yeah, I think it was March. And the only banlist update that we needed to do was World Tree. And like, that was it. Like people went into that meta and it was like a fairly like known quantity, like continuation kind of thing. I think
you missed Trick Shop, but like we don't need to get into that. Yeah. But I think like it's a concern that I bring up just because, and like, man, I hate to do this because it's like, it's not necessarily the game itself. So probably people don't want to hear as much as this, but like how it goes is that like you get new, or you're in the range of getting new cards. Okay. So like Q1, Q2 ish. Okay. And like Worlds is announced, and it's in your best interest to do all your like Worlds. Am I going? Am I not going? Figuring that out. The earlier the better because it's least expensive. But you're in doing that, you're setting yourself up for. You have no idea what this fucking that meta is going to be like, and usually it's the worst one. And so I was like, you know, I like Worlds being the event. I was just wondering if there was more discussion on like how to make that more as far as like the actual game of Netrunner. Because I feel like the past few years, like Continentals just steals the show because it has more and it's fresher and it has less ban lists to take away from it.
I mean, I can't speak to like years before 2023. I mean, honestly, even years before 2024, because I wasn't around for those.
Yeah.
I think there might be like a somewhat flawed like premise here. I think there might be like some like misattribution. You know what I mean? It's like one world's meta being the worst of all the entire year is probably subjective. Two, there's probably something about like if it is slightly worse than like let's say that somehow you can make this objective claim, like it's slightly worse than the Continentals meta. Is it the fact that like you're coming off of Continentals that makes it like seem like it's worse than it actually is because you're mentally going like down rather than going up? I think the other thing is like Continentals. I mean, honestly, if I had to choose between the two, this is going to be a hot take, and I'm not a part of OP, and this is my own personal opinion here. If I had to choose between the two, I might actually choose Continental season because everyone can do Continentals and do it together, and there's like more events and like, I mean, don't get me wrong, Worlds should be like this big like moment and thing, and like I do want Worlds to be like the best meta that it possibly could be, but I think like maybe my hot take like non-NSG, like no NSG hat on currently take is like, shouldn't Continental be the better meta? Like, don't we want to play like more games? Like over the like in like the better meta rather than like exactly 2 days.
My counter to that is that my counter is pretty much what you said, but just looking at it from the other side of the coin is if I don't want to go to Continentals, I don't have to. I can do Continentals in the comfort of my own home. So whether it's good or bad,
I see.
Yeah, right. Versus unless you are in that place of Worlds, like you are spending to do so. So it'd be nice if it was
it's the most expensive trip of the year.
Yeah, looked at as such, and
I got you. It takes the largest sacrifice and commitment, so like it should be the best experience. Okay, I mean that's pretty reasonable. That's pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
I think the last thing I have to say on this, with my NSG hat back on, is that like, I know that OP would love to get to a point where like, yeah, we integrate our our product releases with the OP schedule, like, so. I think that this is a thing that could be thought and talked about more, and SBT had on like, I don't know. I think that I want to look at the world's ban list as differently than kind of some of the other ban lists in the future, and I don't know that this could probably be part of that conversation.
Do we have any more questions, or do we have questions?
We have a lot of questions in the chat. Like,
fire them.
Yeah. So there was a question from XTG about is SBT more scared of being blamed for banning their own card or banning nothing, like being too late about the card?
Sorry, say that again.
Okay, so if you could pick, which would you prefer? Getting a card banned too late or too early?
Oh man.
I think for me it will always be too late. Like I would rather ban things early than let it be too late because you can see the issue at hand, at least in some form. Like I'm happy taking the blame for either way. The blame is not the problem. I just want to fix or like play a good game.
But don't you think that like over time, like there things can be solved? Like like to me, I like I'm not on SVT, of course, but like I think my initial thing would be late, just because like I think that there's opportunities for things to be shaped, shifted, and like overcome. Like maybe it's a problem right now, but that's mainly because we haven't found the solution, and maybe the solution is in the cards, right? And I'd like time for that to be, given to be found, versus just being like, "Ooh, problem now, get it out of here," kind of thing.
I'm with you on that, but at least for this year, I have felt that that has not been the actual case with the meta, only because people would never have moved on to false lead egg, which is the superior egg, if Sting wasn't banned. So I feel that because of the small card pool, people are not adapting enough, and I don't think people would change what's already working if it isn't.
I think that. I don't know. I wouldn't say that is like a good reason to then like ban something, because the other like part of that can just be like we just don't play that. Like you can't be like, oh, this is the result that we're going to get from doing this. Like, so
I think
I mean,
it kind of
anticipate
depends
the
on.
result.
say that again.
We did not anticipate the result to happen that way, for sure.
Yeah, I think like part of the question here comes down to do do we know that the ban was correct or not, right? Because if it's like too, or let's say that okay, I think that we can all recognize that trick shot is incredibly overrate and probably too good of a card, right?
Yeah.
Is I think the premise is like, is it better to ban it too early before people have figured it out, or is it better to have banned it too late when like it has actually started to like very clearly show metagame health issues? And like I think I completely agree with Nagan on like I don't care about blame. Like that's not can't be. It's part of the emotional like work or like the emotional labor of being in this role, but it really shouldn't ever like guide us or like change our decisions, right? Like we shouldn't be afraid of being blamed and have that be like informing like actual decisions that we make, right? I think like using false lead as an example, it's like, yeah, I'd be down for having banned it earlier, but I also think it's completely reasonable for people to say like, well, I like the fact that I was able to experiment with it, and like, there's also something to be said for like the game's like general like knowledge of the game like being expanded as a result of like having needed to deal with it and try to find ways to adapt to it and all this other stuff. I don't think there's a wrong answer to this question. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it very much depends on the cards, I feel like. Like, I think everybody can agree stuff like Boat and Drago probably should have gone on the first ban list that they ever could have been.
Yeah.
And we kinda suffered for like a half a year because those cards existed in the metagame. But then it's like different for different cards.
Is it also the general consensus like the false lead version is better than the Sting version?
I don't think so. I think the Steam version is
I
like
disagree.
better for a lot of people.
Okay, I do not agree with that. Like once you become a false lead deck, you just pigeonhole yourself into like usually just outright losing to tech. And you can't play from behind very well. So, but we have more questions.
Yes. Yeah.
Also, people remember you can call in.
And it's even better when you call in.
Perfect.
I think there are people trying to call in, but they're not in the call-in lobby, so I cannot get. I like. Yeah, next time I'm trying to figure this out, I'm like pre-publishing the list. Okay, I have I think Visatron. Hello,
Ooh,
you're on live on the King's Court.
welcome.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
The jester has arrived.
Yes.
Alrighty. Can I take a second really quick? Safer, we haven't spoken before. Thank you so much for doing what you do. It is
Of course.
much appreciated. The game deserves the level that you all bring to it, and I'm so glad to be able to still play it to this day. It really means a lot. That's the most genuine thing you're going to hear me say on this call. Everything.
Let's go.
Not my intent to interrupt. Finish your thoughts, but
No, go
just
ahead.
wanted to say hello. Oh, sure. So, really quick on the prior point, right? All of these cards are dust in the wind, right? Everything is a tool to shape the meta that we're in. We do that, right? Anything that is currently available in the card pool, I'm fine with. Anything that's out of it is out of it. Like, to me, adapting to a competitive field is just as much adapting to what OP and Co actually do, or in this case, the SPT team in any game, whatever that might be. So I have look, they took a count siphon from me and I'm still here. Like, to me, it's just workable. I will manage. I like Netrunner enough to adapt to it. But I am going to take the SPT team to task for one thing.
Ooh.
Because I need an answer to this, and I'm sure you've answered this elsewhere, but it's something that I'd like to hear about, especially like now that we're kind of like post-elevation and fully in the NSG era, right? Help me understand what's going on with like proxies and updates to cards and why we only allow bans, right? Because from my perspective, if we're in a post-print and play and proxy legal era, we have print and play stations at events, we have these different things going on, and the only lever allowed is straight ban. It feels like you're not giving yourself a lot of space where you could. When it's more possible to do more in that space than there was previously in the FFG era. Like, could you kind of help me understand the logic operationally there as to why you're not allowing like errata and things like that to kind of enter the range of operations?
Okay, I guess before I answer, what is different about having all of the NSG cards versus the FFG cards? Because I think the premise is saying like we can print and play everything, so why couldn't we just print and play or errata like FFG cards?
I should clarify, because that's not quite what I meant. So what I'm saying is now that everything's entirely under the NSG umbrella, there's nothing weird about iterating on previously existing product. You're not stepping on toes, right? So like, if you brought in a full reprint a la False Lead, for example, I could see a world in which that would be perceived oddly, where with an original NSG, even if it is a straight reprint a la Nano, it's a different situation, in my view. Maybe I'm off base there, but that's where I come from on it. You have a wholly bespoke thing that is yours and your own. You can do whatever you want with it. And this game is kind of half digital at this point anyway, in the sense that JNet is officially sanctioned when it wasn't before. So I'm curious as to just like, I just want to get a sense for the logic behind it, I guess. Is it just a scope thing? Because it seems like it'd be a lot of work.
Yes, I can put on, so I have to have my leadership hat for this. This is not an SPT or dev thing.
Okay.
My leadership hat is I'm probably not the best person to answer this question. I don't know if NSG has an official stance on errata versus not, but you're definitely correct that we avoid trying to do it as much as possible. I think that the reasons to avoid errata are product confusion, and being something that makes it so that like people have a harder time getting into the game. Like if you like imagine that we wanted to, let's just say Cleaver, right? Instead of banning Cleaver, we said, you know, Cleaver is now 2 strength instead of 3 strength. We're a digital game. You know, we can just make patch notes and everyone knows it, right? And let's say that we put Cleaver in the updated system gateway, right? The remastered, so people even have the prints of it, right? There's going to be 2 Cleavers out there in the world. And so if you show up to, let's say you show up to a tournament, it's your very first tournament, and someone has a Cleaver, like they're just playing the physical cardboard, right? They're not doing like a printer, right? And it says 3 strength instead of 2 strength. Like, how is that player supposed to know, right? And you could argue, okay, well, that person now needs to, instead of their old card, they need to have the updated things for tournaments or for locals or whatever else. It's like, okay, well, does that person who, like, do we make that single card available for people to purchase? Or is it now just like people have to print and play? Because one of the things that we actually very much do know from people reaching out to community and just general sales data and other stuff is that people like playing with the official cards. Like, people want to purchase the cards. Even going as so far as like where there are distribution issues in certain places of the world, those metas die. Like it is an actual issue to not have physical cards available for people to play with, even though we do live in this world where you can play on JNet and you can print out your cards. That is an option, but that doesn't make it something that people necessarily want to get into. So that is not necessarily an official stance. I'm just presenting to you what some of the considerations in a conversation like that would need to be.
Of course, and I want to be clear, my primary concern is actually my locals, because we have a really solid scene in my area. So I absolutely, we very much enjoy our alt arts, and when something gets banned out or removed in anything, they're in the binder, into the box it goes, and anytime you kind of lose out on the piece of paper, the actual thing, it stings, you feel it, certainly. So even on just that simple level, I'm with you, and I follow your logic. I do kind of, I want to push back a tiny bit on one particular thing, though. I don't think that folks attending an event for Netrunner are any less online necessarily than the folks that are like, well, this is a current ban list, I have to bring a legal deck, right? This is materially different, but I'm not necessarily convinced it's that much harder than keeping up on that front. Especially, again, given that, proxies are an easy solution to this problem. I'll have to think on it a little bit more. It's not something that I really want to fight about in any kind of way, because at the end of the day, I am very happy with the work you all do. It's just one of those things that has come up a bunch of my locals and for myself as well. So I've been curious for a while.
I think that's a fair point. The things I would say to that are, one, everyone has their own individual experiences that they've had that will then dictate how they think about it. And unfortunately, no one, including NSG, and we should fix this, has actual player player sentiment data,
right?
Sentiment data where we can definitively say oh, this is the percentage of players that do this. It's I think this is a thing that we actually should do as an organization.
Well, and sourcing that kind of data is so difficult too, because it's going to self-select into the folks who will answer a poll about Netrunner. That's inherently tough. So
exactly, there are challenges, but it's this is the kind of thing where I'm I am looking at this as a potential blind spot and something that I think that we as an organization should put some more energy and effort into. And we'll see if that actually ends up happening. We'll see if it makes sense, but that's a conversation that I want to bring up at some point. Oh God, there was another point in there. I don't remember. Oh well.
It's all good. I think it was the thing about is proxying any harder than keeping up with a ban list. But honestly, like I said, it's not your department, and I'm not here to put the screws to you at all. That's not my goal. So I appreciate you taking the time regardless.
I need more screws.
Oh, you want more screws? Where's R plus, jackass? Give me back R plus.
That one is covered.
I know.
Oh,
that's better.
Wait. I have a minor teaser thing that's the thing I wanted to add, which is that a team that I am a part of is attempting to do some projects that you might see one day that might impact some of the stuff you're talking about. It is years out. It may never happen, but teaser. Done.
Nice. This is a partial exclusive.
Love the sound of that.
Right?
I mean, people are going to assume all of this completely incorrect stuff, and this is what I'm here for, to troll the living shit out of people.
Fantastic.
With things that are technically true, but you could never figure it out.
That's the best kind of teaser. Give us things to baselessly speculate on, so we can be confused and just bamboozled and disappointed when they actually show up. Yes. That's the dream. All right.
Sorry.
Well, I'm gonna stop committing wage theft. I gotta stop, but I will catch you all later. Love the show. Keep it going. Yeah. What's happening?
Before you go, sorry. What was your name again?
I go by Vicetron. I'm Dimitri. Yeah.
Vicetron. Where's your meta?
East Coast, US.
Yeah, let's go. Shout out to East Coast US in the building.
East Coast, East Coast, baby. Let's go. Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah. We move up and down. I'm technically a little bit more southbound, but we've gone all up and down throughout the years. So.
Canada or US?
US.
Huh, okay.
Excellent. Very good.
All right. Peace, y'all.
Yeah, thank you.
Peace.
Yep.
Nice.
Okay.
Man,
Is now a good time to say that you will play Synapse and like it?
No, I will never.
Yes. All right. Who invited them on? All right. Who did this? Heads need to roll. Synapse should never be mentioned ever. That's a line too far.
You're the one that's trying to get GameNet back. Like,
no, I think we're clearly wanting GameNet out of here. We want like something replacing GameNet.
Yeah, we want something. We want another product instead. If it's not going to be supported and just going to sit there for years, and two, the people who the few people who may like GameNet, I was just, offering my support. That like in terms of emotionally, you know what I mean. They may be hurting, to hear that their shit's never getting supported. Like they had, there's copium, but there's hopium, and like they were. Yeah. So I just wanted to, give them a chance to like cry some tears and talk about the good old days, and then, they can move on, some closure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but Synapse, that's like that's like a, yeah.
Someone clip this.
Show me the future Synapse support. Because like we may have a blank one on site. Like we might have a DOA, all right, and that's fine. It happens, but like Synapse was a kick in the teeth after taking the blowtorch to NBN. But you know what? NBN like continues to stick the middle finger up and just says, "Look, I'll just win," Because it's the goated faction of all time. Do we have more questions?
We have another call in?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, so Miatri, you're on the King's Court now.
Welcome.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello.
You had a question or a comment?
Yes. Oh, first of all, thanks for doing this, everyone. Stream was slightly behind, so I kind of got jump scared.
Yeah. I get it.
I guess I'm just gonna get into it. I'm trying to figure out. I want to know what's the philosophy behind the ban list itself. Like, is it a case of you're trying to create a fun format, you're trying to create a fresh format, or is it a case of you're trying to create a balanced format or a fair format for a competitive standpoint?
You mean the most recent one?
I feel like the last 3 ban lists have been made by 3 different people, if that makes sense. And I understand the most recent one, at least, is like, competitive evens cooled down. We're not really trying to shake it up too much, but we're trying to just see what these bans how these bans affect this format. So that one makes sense to me. But the other 2, I don't fully get them. I just do not understand them. Philosophically, if anything. Not even like the bans themselves, philosophically, I don't fully get.
Which ones in particular?
So
you said like
the world's ban
list,
list
like
because the world's ban list for me because of how we took a nuke to the format before the most important tournament of the year, but also we decided not to hit the best deck in the room basically at all, which is something we can discuss. And then the one before it Okay, to be fair, I agreed with that ban list a lot more, even if I think it's a little strange that we decided to shoot Bankar, despite Banhar not really being. I mean, this is probably the weakest it's ever been, if I'm going to be honest. I know the King's gonna be like, "What the hell are you talking about?" But honestly, Banhar was not that bad. At the time of its ban, it was not the problem card.
Wow.
It
Like,
for sure was a problem, Card. Like, what are we talking about?
I
Card's
thought I had
broken as
that
hell.
Sorry. Before you answer, before you answer, I want to know. Sorry. What what was your name, or what handle do you go by?
Oh, I'm Methea. My real
Methea.
name's Mahir. I don't really care. Yeah, and
I got
I'm
you.
just a London. I'm just a London player. I'm like okay at the game. Like I have a couple of tops. I'm like solid, but I'm surrounded by much better players than me. Is the honest answer.
No, but you got a real skill. Like, you can read minds. You knew exactly what I was gonna say before you said it. So I didn't have to say it.
I
That was
know.
pretty cool.
People
That
are
was
really surprised when I say Banhal was banned at the point where it was weakest, but single ice decks were doing fine. Like the best deck was a single ice deck. So don't tell me like ice each server once. So don't tell me Banhal was a problem when that was the best deck.
I can play. Maybe sometime we can play like Alco or whatever you want, and I'll play like the Banhar Transfer of Wealth Hosh, and we'll see how many games you win, and then you'll see if you feel like Banhar is a problem.
Statistically,
or is
you're
yours.
just not proof. Alright, statistically, hate to break it to you, Criminal was doing better. So
That's because we're not playing the right deck, but like that's fine. That happens in metas.
Alright. I just want to hear from Safer. I understand. We're gonna get into it too much if we argue about it. And I know chat's gonna moan at me, but I'm not looking at chat now. And
Yeah. I mean, so this is probably like I was with you until the Bankar tank, and I was like, "This is the hottest
okay,
take."
Banhart take. Okay, put the Banhart take aside. Let's just focus on the philosophy of the ban.
Yeah. I also like this is something like I want to be brief on touching on it because I think that like one of the things I think is cool about SPT in general is that we have a lot of like different opinions. Like like we do not necessarily agree on like we don't necessarily see the game the same way. We don't necessarily agree on like what is right because that's representative of what is true, right? So I want to try to be brief so that like Noggin can also answer this. But I think that again we should take the two banners separately, and I think really what people are like the jury's out on like with this latest one, right? Like we need to see how it goes on. Like as people play it, people might like it. Like people might go like, "Holy shit, this thing was a banger!" Like you just don't know, right? So let's talk about the 2510 one because that's the one that, with hindsight, like it's 2020, like is a little bit easier to like talk about, right? I think that the articles are basically our attempts at trying to like get people like give people insights into like what our process was like and like where we're coming from, and like if people are having the question of like I don't get what the philosophy was, it's either okay we need to better define what our philosophy is internally because it's not coming through in our writing, or like in the ban list that I wrote, like in the article that I wrote, I'm not doing a good enough job of like presenting like what the team's philosophy is, right? And so to actually get at your question of like what was our philosophy for Worlds and going into Worlds, I would say it was to try to continue to make the meta like to try to be like a refinement on the existing meta and try to basically enhance it. Like that's what we wanted to do. That's what we set out to do. Part of the premise of that was like Alco, like like in 2508, we wanted to hit Alco. We just didn't like come up with an answer that made sense. And so we let it ride, But like there's a different universe with 2508 where like we hit a card in Alco. And so for 2510, we hit a card in Alco. And I think previously on the stream, we already talked about like Cyber Sand Harvester being this like really weird like touchstone that evolved over.
Deserve the nuke. I'm not going to pretend like it didn't. I'm an old player.
Right.
I know it had to go.
So it's like I think that we can look at the Creative Commission unban as being relatively, I would say, successful. Like I think that Shaper is currently at like a roughly appropriate like level. I think that there's a good argument that you could have to saying like, I think there's a very fine argument to say, hey, wow, look at me not being brief. It's a very fine argument, a very fine argument to
Hey,
say like,
I'm enjoying the talk.
um, to say that like, hey, Creative Commission Unbanned was still like risky because like Shaper could have ended up being better, and then that like fucks with things quite a bit. And different decks being like popular and all this other stuff, like that matters. But like if Shapers are supposed to have the best tools into like ice-based matchups, and we're expecting to see like a decent amount of like LEO, then it kind of makes sense to give them Creative Commission, to give them like a little bit more econ, a little bit more reliability, and also like make it so they can actually play the asset matchup. Whereas realistically before, like
It's
in
opened Anacam back into the deck building, which is nice. I like Anacam a lot more
Yeah.
than bloody Lily Pad.
yeah,
So
It's like-
I didn't like it at the time. In hindsight, I think that one worked quite well.
Right.
I won't be surprised if it gets banned again at some point though, because it's not a very sensible card in terms of card design. It's just like the card pool's small enough that it probably makes sense. It's kind of my
yeah,
opinion on quick machine.
yeah. Okay, I'm gonna wrap this up. So I think that you can look at each individual thing and it makes sense, and then like collectively you're like, okay, but what's like the result or what's the direction? I think that's where like the foundation of this question comes. And I think philosophically, like what we try to achieve, I don't know if we actually hit on the goals, but I think Not Again was like, I don't know, Not Again has a different perspective on this.
Don't I always?
Yeah.
I do feel that I personally hit on the goals that I wanted from 2510, keeping in mind that that was the first ban list that I actively was SPT on. And my thoughts are like, I wasn't there for 25.8, but if I was there, I would 100% have moved the stink ban or just any alco ban to that ban list instead of just letting it ride, which would maybe have a different effect. We don't know, but by this time we knew that something needed to go, so it just had to be done. And like, I think Sting was in this scenario the best outcome, even in a field where none of the outcomes were desirable.
Okay. Because I guess the one thing I'll say in terms of alcohol specifically is that we've had arguably 2 bans for it, and I still don't think either of them have really hit the from my perspective at least. Neither of the hits have really affected the core of what makes alcohol good. And I like, even when Sting was here, we had already seen decks not playing Sting. Like plenty of decks not playing Sting, not even just like 1 or 2, and like Sting was the main variant. I wouldn't even say it was that. It was just like you could play Sting if you wanted to, you didn't have to. That was my opinion on Sting. So when it went, my very first reaction was, this literally doesn't change anything. They're just going to jump to a slightly different version that still has the same win rate. Which is kind of what ended up happening, but it ended up being false lead, which is unfortunate, but I was hoping it would be Regenesis. That's a way more fun matchup to me. But I digress. The point being is that like, we're now at 2 burns for Alco, and I don't think we've hit any of like the 25 cards or so that are in every Alco list, and I wonder why that's the case.
Okay, this I definitely want to speak to.
Okay.
No, you go. I talk plenty.
Okay. So I can't, or rather, you can't just immediately weaken Alco just because. Imagine the meta is like a large web, and every single deck that you play, even on any side, is somehow connected. Like, even if it's Alco or if it's Leo, like, doesn't matter how wide it is or how tall it is, it
for
isn't
sure.
somehow connected.
You shoot
If you
one deck,
ban
it causes
Alco,
other decks to become good in relation. 100%.
Yeah.
Of course.
and so if you ban Alco, runners will have to either not Alco, but like just weaken it significantly. Runners will have to easily just tech for like, I don't know, 2 cards, or like have tech for the other perceived threats in the meta, which already were significantly worse than Alco, which would really just lead to one-sided meta anyhow. Like, you can't delete Alka on the spot until there's more support for every single, or not every single, but like more support for runners to deal with it, or more support for runners to not just run over other corps, which could also just mean more
Right.
support
So you're
for other
saying
corps.
Alco's pull on the meta, like pull on how runners deck build, is too
Yeah,
important to give up.
which would affect
Okay.
how the other corps would be built.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
Makes sense.
the point is not necessarily like that it would be a positive or a negative, just that like it would have a large impact. Like everything you do has an impact on things, so it's nothing can really be looked at in a vacuum. And so specifically speaking towards like Alco, like I was of the opinion in 2508. No, as 2508 the meta continued to go on, I more and more became convinced as I played a lot of Alco that Alco was an appropriate power level. Like it was not out of bounds. So like I was one of the opinions on the team that where I was like, I'm not sure we actually need to hit Alco at all. And like that's I think that your statement of like Sting, wasn't played in that many decks, or like like was like an option, is like I think Not Again's point is like really good, where it's like taking any option out of it is meaningful for the entire archetype, even the ones that don't play that card. And
Oh yeah, 100%. Because like you have to tech for less versions of alcohol, I guess, is what you're saying there, right? 100%.
yeah, and there's like
Obviously,
specific play patterns, right? Like one of the reasons
You
why
can run. You can, like what a lot of people said to me was you could run archives now, right?
yeah, exactly
I don't
right.
know,
So like
I don't know if that's true. Hindsight for me, that's not true.
way
But
more
we
true.
can pretend like they were right.
It is infinitely more true now than it was before. That's for sure. The
I don't know about that one. I'll
I
agree to disagree, but I'm not the greatest.
all right. I will. Okay, my credentials here should not necessarily be from like tournament play.
No, I'm
Like,
willing to say I'm wrong. You gotta realize that
okay.
just because what my heart believes and what my logical head believes are two different things.
Sure.
My heart says running archives is not necessarily any less risky than it was before. Sure, you
I
don't
see.
die, but the tempo loss is still the main thing Alco wants out of you running archives.
Yeah. So like
That's
the
my
logic.
experience. You didn't really die from running archives anyway. Was my experience. I digress.
So like let's go under the assumption that like Alco is a requirement for Alco to have a ban target, right? And you're choosing between different ban targets. Sting in particular allows for easier checks on archives, which then reduces the feasibility of Regenesis plays. So it's not just like, oh wow, Sting banned, like they're going to move to this other thing. Like one of the reasons why we haven't seen as much Regenesis, and one of the reasons why we saw the move to false lead, is because archives is so much easier and safer to flip now, right? And it's not about will it kill you or not. It could just be about I don't want to give Alco +1 counter, and I have a transfer in my hand that I want to land. And so I actually am like not willing to risk taking one or two Sting damage that the corp gets to opt into because they have a Spin Doctor or Moonpool on the table, that kind of thing. Someone in chat also mentioned like, why not Moonpool? Why not these other things? And you mentioned like taking out the power of a deck, and I don't think
I'm
that
assuming that's too much. Was SBT probably tried Moonpool and Masuga was too strong of a hit? It's basically what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I think like cohort out, like the card Alco itself.
My one question then is not necessarily why did Sting get banned. It's more now. What was the problem with the Regenesis Sting version of the deck that led to it being the one you decided to hit? If that makes sense, rather than the other versions of Alco. Like why is that the play pattern we decided was the one worth hitting the most? I'm just curious. Like this isn't me disagreeing anymore. I actually quite like what you've said. I'm just really curious why that's the version we decided to chase.
Sure.
That
So
play
I
pattern
think
is the one we decided to chase.
I think that Sting, basically, if you weren't playing Sting, it was probably wrong. Was my read
Ooh,
and
I don't know if I agree with
most of
that,
the
because I
other.
thought my experience was that Sting was like easy to take and
That's
not that bad. Like I
so
was less afraid of
from
Sting than most people.
from all of the people that so it's not just like, oh, my own experience. It's also like I talked to all of the top Alco players, right? Like I'm in Snare Bears, which means that like
Yeah.
we have Deer who made the deck, the Oppo deck originally. You have Rongi
You
Doge
have
who
Cable
is like
Carnage. Yeah,
top cut. You have Cable
100%.
Carnage. You have like most of like Snare Bears or some version of Snare Bears have been playing and iterating on this deck. Like it's not even like I don't know. This might be like a hat take or a bad take or whatever, but it's like I think that Snare Bears are probably the testing team that has the most experience and the most mastery over Alco.
I think
You
EA
know.
Sports would give you a run for your money after Worlds, but
Well,
I'll let you have it.
maybe after Worlds.
Not the point of the conversation. Move on. Not the point of the conversation.
So my point is that like it's not just my own experience. It's my own experience validated by what other players are saying, and not just like people in like a closed testing team is saying, but like I talk to other players as well to try to like figure out like what is going on, right? It's not just like here's my one experience. It's like no, I want to get a cohesive like look of things and better understanding of things. And so Sting is such a consistent piece of the deck for getting early counters, for having flexibility, for making bad hands like workable. That like we knew that it was going to be impactful, and then the question just came down to how impactful and what are the gameplay patterns and what is its impact on like runner play, right? And so Anemone is another card that we tested out, and I was really, really big on saying we shouldn't ban Anemone over Sting because in all of the testing games I played without Anemone, the runner can just face check ice. And I don't mean face check, the runner can put down dolls or they can put down like a killer and they can just run ice and they don't need to be worried about it. Anemone is one of like the key things that allowed me to like make my ice relevant in that format.
I understand. Yes, dolls. I don't know if the killer is true considering a teeny exists, but maybe because it costs too much.
No one's playing a teeny.
They're wrong. A teeny's amazing. It's what I've learned. Every time I see a teeny get res, I fucking hate myself. But whatever.
So yeah, I think we tested out a bunch of different options. Sting is the one that we thought had the appropriate amount of hit and like brought up the runners that we wanted to bring up in the way that we wanted to bring them, like to like even out the matchup, so to speak. And I mean, this is part of the reason why I'm like, I like Sting. Like I like the gameplay dynamics. I think it makes for really interesting, like tense board states.
Well, I'm gonna be honest. I liked Sting.
So
I think it was more interesting card than the false lead version. That's for sure. But to be fair, I also don't. We've hopped a lot on Arco for a deck that I don't actually dislike. Is the ironic thing. It was. There's one other thing I want to ask, completely unrelated, which is like, how does NSG see like silver bullets and tech nowadays? Because a lot of what you talked about just now was like, about the idea of how like decks obviously in relation to how and so runners have to prepare for as many as they can by like, and so having Alco in the meta pulls runners away from overteching for like Glacier, for example, right, for Leo, and like making Leo feel bad to play because runners can just have their Hana and their all their tech for Leo prepared, like a bunch of drip econ, whatever, right? How does like silver bullets like NFL and Stone Ship come in? Because I think the King mentioned this as well in one of the King's Court podcasts, so shout out to the fact that I pay attention to them, which is that a lot of those tech cards are kind of just you put them down and you've won the game on the spot because you have them, assuming you don't misplay horribly.
I think that speaks more to the state of corpse than it does to those individual cards.
Yep.
Like, I'm not happy that they're one influence.
Interesting.
I don't like their design, but like, if you're telling me that,
so you want Corpse to be able to overpower those tech cards,
no,
as in play through them, or do you want Corpse to? Hang on. I'm confused.
So here, it's very simple. If as a runner, all I need to do to beat a corp is to put down an NFL and say, if you can't stick a single tag on me, then I just automatically win the game. That says more about what corps have to resort to to attempt to win games than it does about like it
Tech
it
card
says
being too
more.
good. Okay.
The tech court is still too good. Like, don't get me wrong, it is.
Okay. I was gonna say
Preach.
I don't like NFL stunt shit.
Preach.
I don't like
Steve,
NFL stunt shit.
Steve,
But,
if
like,
there's
I agree
anyone
with
who
the king.
gets
The king's
it,
all right.
if there's anyone who gets it, it's Safer. Safer was a hero we all needed. I knew it. I knew it.
like think about it, right? Like if I ignore the fact that it's one influence, let's say there was three influence, right? But if I can play a three influence card, let's say it's a 2x, so I have 2 copies in my deck, I install it and then I have a 90% win rate. That's not dynamic gameplay. That is not anything that we should try to aspire to from a game design perspective, from a balance perspective, from like a whatever perspective, right? Like, that's not fun. And so the fact that, like, it's, if we didn't have as busted of tech cards as we did currently, then like it wouldn't show like this, like what corps have to resort to try to get wins. Like, I think it's a bad sign that Bite is showing up in Alco. Like, I think that's a bad indicator.
Correct.
Really? I think that's perfectly sensible. Like, I mean, it triggers their ID. It does good value. I think Bite's fine.
And you do listen to the podcast, and like I know you do. You remember when I said that when you start putting traps in your deck, it's the first sign of weakness, and that's true, right? Like Nebula,
here's the thing.
honestly,
Bite to me, this is a side conversation. But Bite to me is a card that's fair because you have to make both sides threatening for it to do anything, right? Otherwise, it's just a value piece. It's just like a tempo hit to the runner, right? When you touch it. Otherwise, it's just a tempo hit to the runner.
No, like.
Whereas my opinion on like Behold is just you touch it at the wrong time, you lose the game. That card's fucked up.
No, but really, that was really the thing with Nebula that I don't think was discussed. Is like it really just became an oh my god when we're like, 1 Behold, 2 Behold, 3 Behold, and that's when it was like. Oh yeah,
Yep.
Running is really stupid, and now that running
and then they
is
can
really
start putting
stupid,
stuff on the table naked and be like,
exactly.
If it's a Behold, you lose the game. So like,
Yeah.
well, you're gonna touch it. It's the worst. Yeah, I don't know what.
Right.
I don't know.
But like Bite, like false lead scored with like Bite an enemy is like it or fucking what's that card called the 4/2 Sentry is just like.
I mean, what?
Fenucia. Fenucia.
Oh, Fenucia.
Is the same. It's just very similar.
Fenucia is kind of the same. Fenucia is like you have to make the tags. You have to make the tag matter as much as the damage, right? Like that's why I like those cards. Like with Bite. I mean, False Lead is like it makes those cards a lot better. That's part of the way you can make the tag matter is having a False Lead and you just go right?
Yes, you can. But like I think what we're trying to say here is that like. If you feel like the bites are like it's not just like this fun card you're playing, or you're not just if you feel like the bites are necessary, that speaks to the weakness of Corp more than anything else, and that's like not probably where you want things to be. Yeah, when you start including traps, it's like you feel like you have to flip this coin. That's essentially what you're saying. Is that like. I don't think my deck is strong enough. I don't believe in it enough to just win outright.
That is a strange way of looking at Bite because I don't know if I agree with that, but fair enough if that's how you feel. I'll say from you himself. As soon as something.
I would also like to add about the tech card pieces where NFL and Stone Ship currently I feel are just slightly above curve, but fine. But also, if your deck is like your corp deck is like, yeah, if they install tech, I lose, then your deck is just bad.
Yeah, but that's a lot of things we just have right now.
Yeah, like that's the thing. The card pool is so limited right now that like it's kind of hard to build a deck that isn't like that.
Yeah.
I'll say in the future, then like this may be me asking about the future in dev, and like that's something that's you have to obviously be vague about. I do want to ask: is the goal for corps to be able to play through the tech, like NFL and Stone Ship, or the goal for the corps to be able to outspeed the tech, if that makes sense, and like win, or have or actually third way they could win is have multiple win conditions in a corp deck, like sort of like how I guess the closest thing right now is Scrobs, which has the scoring out win condition and the measure response win condition, right? Where even if they had the tech down, you can still win the game. What's the goal with like design right now in terms of tech?
So the way that I approach it within dev, and the way that I would, argue for it within the team when we're doing dev of things is like, we should not design around Stone Ship or NFL at all. It's like, if a card interaction is coming up and playtesters were saying something like, oh, like let's say it's like, oh, someone's like, oh, this card is completely like fucked up and like uninteractive and all this other stuff, and then someone else is like, yeah, but just install like no free lunch. Like, I've had 0 issues with it because of no free lunch. Then what I would say is like, I'd be like, okay, let's ban no free lunch in testing, in play test, and like let's just see how players react when they can't use that tech card. We do this frequently, and like playtest bans like can go all over the place. But like the premise should be that like we should be able to effectively, within developing a set, treat it like those cards don't exist, and then that gives SBT the like canvas to like choose how they want to handle those things. So if they end up being a problem, then they could be hit, right? But now like SBT hat back on, like saying, okay, I'm going to ban no free lunch because see how they run combos need to get better, is like not increasing like is not necessarily making like the meta better.
Okay. So you're saying the sets are mostly designed without the tech in mind, so that the tech has an impact, and then we can see later on if it's having too much of an impact. Is kind of the idea.
I can't say designed right that way, because like the conversations that we have with design are very different and like more philosophical.
Yeah, play tested at least in some respects. Sorry, I understand this is separate people. I'm overlapping.
It's mostly that like you don't have to bucket it into like a tech card versus another card. Just name any busted card that's doing something that maybe that's like above rate or above like what it should be doing, right? So Hoshiko was banned in playtesting for all of Elevation's development because we didn't want to design in our cards around Hoshiko being as strong as she is, because the cards would have come out weaker than they managed to come out. Because like artificially, what would have happened is people would have been like, oh, Anarch's fine because they're playing Hoshiko and they're putting these new cards in it, and Hoshiko's consistency and just like raw power would have.
Yeah, she would be pushing down the rest of the set, basically. Which, I mean,
exactly.
I don't know if Anarch was entirely successful when it comes to Elevation anyways, but that's besides the point.
Yep, fair take.
That's a separate conversation again. I actually don't. I mean, we could talk about that if you wanted to. Like, what happened with Anarch in the set? That's actually a good question. Like, what happened with Anarch in the set? But I think the answer is Gateway Anarch is busted as shit. And so
this is the kind of
stuff Anarch has to be kind of bad in comparison.
This is the kind of stuff that I'm more than happy to talk about, but I do not want to take over the podcast
I would like to get, or not to cut you off, Mita, but I would like to get to some other questions. I'm
about done anyway. So like, I'm pretty happy with everything I've talked about. Like, tech cards and what the hell's up with the ban list are kind of the two things I wanted to learn about. So I'm coming off here. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about? Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
please keep doing these podcasts because I will always be listening.
We will.
Probably too much.
Yeah.
Good night.
Good night.
I think we have time for 2 more questions that we had in chat that people seemed really to be interested in hearing about.
Please.
Is that all right?
Works for me.
All right. So first question here was from Koga about has SBT considered like alternative banlist structures, stuff like we used to have the restricted card system, or like the current point system in Eternal, or like the influence system that we used to have in like super old FFG times. Like, is it
most one.
Like, have we thought about those, or is it just too difficult to decide?
It hasn't ever been a topic of conversation as long as I've been on the team. I'm not opposed to considering it at some like I'm not opposed to like talking about it and exploring it, but I have a feeling that the team like I have a feeling that like okay, if this was like a thing that the like new members brought up, I'd probably reach out to like Lost Geek and old members and be like, hey, like, what did y'all discuss and like, why did you land on this? Because I think they probably had a very good reason.
Yeah, like there was probably a reason why we switched into this current system from like the restricted system.
But like, I'm not opposed to like exploring it again.
Yeah.
I'm just not entirely convinced it's necessary or worth the like the logistical overhead at this point.
It also probably works really differently for different card pools. Like Eternal, for example, benefits a lot from having like the point system there, allowing it to more dynamically change stuff around.
Yeah, I really like the Eternal point system. Startup has like a deck building restriction on like agendas. Like you can have a certain number of 5/3s that they take in and out. Like I don't know, I'm all for like teams like cooking on like what makes sense for their formats.
There was the last question for the evening. So the question from Lost My Thumbs. Twinning has not been mentioned in any of the BANLIST articles this year. Has there been any internal SBT discussion around it? Because the card is kind of good and cornerstone of like 2 factions win condition.
I don't think it has ever been discussed, at least until I've been there.
Yeah, it was talked about when we were thinking of like deep dive. Like twinning did come up at that point, and we were thinking about it as like a potential for basically like Cram and Anarch, like to bring them down. I can't remember exactly the reason why we stopped exploring it, but I'm pretty sure, like, I don't know. At this point right now, I'm like, okay, twinning is incredibly good. It is really strong, but like you do need like a certain amount of like multi-access in the format for it to be like healthy, and like there's just not that many other options besides twinning. Like you do have Conduit, you do have oh god, Stargate, but you have Jailbreak. There's other options, but I think the reason why we see so much twinning right now is just because it's kind of head and shoulders above everything else. And I don't know, like I think that like if we ban twinning, is the format better as a result of that? And I don't think the answer is yes.
Yeah.
So, like I think this is like a case of people looking at like, oh, twinning is in like every deck and twinning is great. And it's like, well, okay, but if it wasn't twinning, then like does that just mean that games are like incredibly slow and kind of like grindy and like runners, like is it just like you have to win on singles and that's how like runners win games? It's like I'm not sure that makes for like better gameplay.
Yeah, definitely. Like I feel like win condition cards are really difficult to like figure out. Because like for example, like Turning Wheel is exactly the same thing where it was like basically in every deck. Because you just kind of need a win condition here. So you typically gravitate towards the best.
Turning Wheel was kind of busted though.
I mean, so is twinning.
Yeah, but like Turning Wheel's better than twinning for sure, right?
No.
Yeah,
really?
but
No.
Okay. So like twinning or Turning Wheel can like work on its own, but the way that you get twinning counters is way more like bonkers than Turning Wheel counters.
Yeah, but like Turning Wheel allows you to use it then like a lot more frequently, and it builds up faster if I remember correctly, right?
No, because you have to run for them, and it's 2 for 1. Like twinning is just 1 for 1. So like any turn you don't do anything, I just get a twinning counter. That's an access. Like I don't have to run for it. I don't have to do anything. It just happens.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Also,
Um,
winning's timing window is kind of silly. So you have to like overcommit the tokens sometimes. If they have like Leo ability, your turning wheel is kind of just blank against it.
Yeah.
oh.
Versus twinning beats all the end the run stuff because you don't have to commit them.
I didn't play with border control. Like I
Mhm.
like I didn't know that interaction.
Yeah,
Um,
it's really kind of a silly interaction, to be fair.
yeah. I don't know. I just remember like turning wheel. Like I think I played with it. Oh, it was in draft. I remember, and I was like, "Oh, this card's kind of busted because I can just farm it and then like literally dig like 6 or like whatever, like 5
Yeah.
at the same time." Like,
Turning wheel is
but
definitely a better card in a correct situation. Like when you have
yeah,
Almakua, like a something generating value of runs. Like you have Almakua Leech and like a Penny Shaver online,
yeah,
and just like run R&D 3 times. It's kind of a busted card.
yeah. But you are totally right. Where twinning doesn't like you can just build up twinning counters when not interacting, and that's a little cringe. It's a little cringe.
Just a little, folks. Just a little.
Brandon, you cannot complain about running the cards every time.
I'm not. I'm not. Twinning is one of the things that I've definitely stayed away from. Because I know I've been there before. Corp runner side, I know the dangers of not having proper win cons. That's when things are really bleak. Like really bleak. Like I may not like some of how corps are winning games these days, but like not being able to do anything at all is the worst. That's when you hit rock bottom. That's when Drago and Keeling get created. That's when that's when shit really hits the fan. You know, I've been there before. All right. Well, this has been great. Thank you, Safer, not again, for joining us and sharing all the great knowledge, insight. Axu for everything that you do, pillar of the community, of course. Eater of all cards, and and OP's finest. And to everyone who tuned in, called in, like calling in and being able to just ask your question, like that, it takes a lot. Thank you so much for doing that, and for listening in and asking your questions in the chat and participating. It all goes towards the greater good of keeping our game excellent. But yeah, stay tuned for more King's Court content. We hope you enjoyed the last episode that was just posted with Bridgman. Check that out if you haven't already. And I'll give you anything Safer, not again, Axu, you want to plug before we head out here?
Apparently not.
Cricket.
Thanks. Thanks for having me on. It's been fun. Play testing, you know, you can always help make the next set if you join play testing. In theory, I should know how you'd sign up for it, but I'm sure if you look it on, you know, so you'll be into a website somewhere, it'll be there. Vantage Point is going to be hype as fuck. That's all I got.
Not again?
Yeah,
You,
thanks for having me on. Nothing to shout out, but always happy to talk Netrunner or provide bad takes about Netrunner.
Very good. Okay. And everyone, we outie.
Yeah, Audi. ended the stream. Thanks for being